Thank you. Very warm welcome to everybody from around the world. This is our NSF webinar around our capability on business excellence and how business excellence can be assured through the quality and management of waste. And I'm really going to spend about 45 minutes with you this afternoon to go through three key aims. The first aim that I've got is to introduce our capabilities to you. Many of you already know us, some of you may not, and I'd like to share with you what we can do in cost of quality, cost of poor quality training, and also in the mentorship of programs. We also want to set an aim this afternoon to help you change your business conversations with your peers. We want you to change those conversations so that you consider not just product quality, patient safety, GMP, which of course is always going to be essential in our line of work, but also to change those business conversations to include costs and delivery to market. My third aim is that I want us to focus for the next 45 minutes on how effective waste management will make you more competitive. It will improve delivery of your products on time in full. It can reduce inventory, and fundamentally at the same time it can improve quality and GMP compliance. So some introductions about NSF Pharma Biotech. We are a leading GMP consultancy that has three clear offerings. The first one is our highly acclaimed specialist training. This is training for EU qualified persons and senior pharma professionals. And of course we perform that training both internal and as residential courses. We also provide auditing services, including certification of auditors, internal auditing and vendor assurance. And we also increasingly work on consultancy projects where the outcome that the client is looking for would be described as transformational. And those types of projects you could describe in four sectors. The first one is around altering quality mindset or quality culture. You know, in this changing world, we know that evolution and speed of change and flexibility is critical to your organization. Remember, Darwin said it wasn't the most biggest or the most aggressive that survives, but he who evolves the quickest. So evolution, organizational evolution is critical, and we're a leader in providing quality mindset and quality culture project upgrades. We also work a lot on GMP remediation projects, both the reactive remediation projects where companies may have had issues with consent decrees, warning letters, MHRA inspection, action group referrals, and other issues of that nature. But we also manage a number of projects where the company themselves have been proactive in finding the issues, perhaps using quality risk management, ICHQ 9, effective quality planning, and then ranking those risks so that a proactive remediation project can be done before it becomes a regulatory action. That's something that we are very, very active in as well. We're also working on a number of projects that involve new facilities, new capabilities, or new quality systems. These span companies that are building biosimilar facilities, generic facilities amongst the CMO sector, new microbiology laboratories, and new quality systems and upgrades to quality systems. And along the lines of our capability for cost of quality, we're also managing a number of projects surrounding business performance. For those of you who know me, the next slide says something about myself. I'm an executive director here at NSF, based in the UK. And my experience across industry in senior and corporate positions, both manufacturing and quality, have given me the grey hair and scar tissue to be able to advise on what works well and what works less well in this incredibly challenging industry that we're in. So let's have a few basic truths highlighted before we start. Now, it's obvious that the industry is changing. It's nowhere near the same industry as it was 5 years ago, and a million miles away from what it was 10 years ago. We have an increasingly global economy. We have patents that are running out. The growth of biosimilars will continue. We have a very risk-averse society and a risk-averse set of regulators who really stretch our resources to provide the right product at the right time at the right cost. And of course, there's some seismic changes going on in the landscape concerning education, conflict, and world resources. And fundamentally, if you look at the industry and you look at our performance on the website, you have to say that as an industry, some of our performance is a little unimpressive. You know, drug shortages are a real embarrassment, I think, to the industry. The incidence of recall, regulatory action, and of course the cost of goods to a wider economy are all incredible challenges to us within the industry. And I think if we try to do something different, purely to reduce quality risks, we miss out on other key benefits to the business. And you'll notice this small graphic at the bottom of the page here, where if you think of your business, whatever business you're in, you need to manage quality and GMP, you need to manage cost, and you need to manage delivery and customer service. But you're drawn to each of those three parts of the triangle at various times by various people with various priorities, and that can often cause a real confusion in priorities. It can cause messy compromises, flavour of the month initiatives, conflict as an organisation, and also sometimes conflict within individual teams. And whenever we change priority routinely, backwards and forwards, from cost to delivery to service to quality, it can cause initiative fatigue within your organisation, and that can cause staff disengagement and stasis. So our approach is actually to make sure that we all talk the same language and that we use an approach that uses the power of and, not or. So any of you that know the work of Stephen Covey, a key management guru of this last century, he talks a lot about the power of and, not or. Because as soon as you start to be asked a question where you have to decide one thing or the other, you know that you're going to be disappointed. So what do I mean by that? If I said to you, do you want to live a long, unhappy life or a short and happy life, which one would you choose? It's really difficult, isn't it? But why make the choice at all? Why not choose to live a long life and a happy life? And a lot of what we talk about in cost of poor quality is about making sure that you don't have to make those choices, that you can have world-class cost, world-class delivery and customer service, and world-class quality and GMP. So, what about your competition? Well, your competition is likely to be ahead of you in this field. You know, we just have to look at the work we're doing, where we have 6 major simplification projects ongoing in 2015, and a multitude of human error reduction programs that we've been asked to work on as firms seek to reduce the cost to market, cost to manufacture, or they're looking to reduce inventory or reduce product lead times. So there is a lot of activity in this area, and I would certainly recommend that you have a good understanding of what these types of techniques could give your organisation. It's true, it sounds a little pessimistic, but it's true to say that the next challenge or business catastrophe is just round the corner. It's just round the next corner, and making sure you're prepared for it and you preempt it could make an enormous difference to the survival of your company. I make another referral on the next bullet to Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great, he talks about good as being the enemy of great. Good enough is just not going to cut it. It's not going to help your enterprise survive. Your enterprise has to be great for it to survive. And actually, when you look at the leading companies, they excel in each of those parameters shown on the graphic at the bottom of slide 5. So cost of quality, on time in full, and perpetual inspection readiness. You have to be excellent at all of them in order to survive long term as a business. So why are we here? Why are we senior executives in our company? And I suppose in a nutshell, you might summarize this by saying that our job is to assure the future and ensure that that future is planned and that you deliver breakthrough levels of performance. So we're not senior executives to maintain the status quo. We're not here to keep it the same as it ever was, because we all know if it stays the way it was, other firms get better, and in effect you go backwards. So to really predict the future, you have to invent it for yourself. And actually, one of my bosses, when I was a quality director in my previous life, said to me that there were really only 3 mantras for anybody working in a quality environment. So particularly for those of you who have quality in your job title, what would those 3 mantras be? Well, the first one would be that you have to identify risk. If we're not identifying risk as a quality professional, it's a bit like driving your car with the headlights off in the dark. You're really driving without any foresight of what's coming along the road. The second mantra, as it was described to me, I quite like it, is that you have to then act. You have to minimize risk. You have to take action to minimize risk to the business. And the third mantra was fundamentally, even though you have legal responsibilities as a quality EU qualified person or as a quality head, and your home base, if you like, is GMP and product quality and quality management systems, fundamentally the third mantra is where justified, you need to facilitate on time in full to budget costs, because that's your responsibility to the shareholders. And of course that future is determined by continuing with the business, growing the business to a plan, and maintaining those 3 simple parameters of cost of quality, on time in full, and perpetual inspection readiness. So, why is this so difficult for us? Well, often when you talk to people within our industry, it seems like we don't speak the same language sometimes. You know, we hear that production staff perhaps say, well, QA only talk about non-conformance or GMP risks. We hear QA people say production only talk about delivery dates and budget and output and yields. We hear that all I hear from QA is white noise. My boss doesn't listen to me. The employees aren't listening. Management don't get it. So by utilizing a COPQ program, we're actually trying to help you change the business conversation to one that everyone can understand. And the language that everybody understands is money. No one likes wasting money. And we know that waste in all of its forms can be minimized to provide us with a dividend that would include improved customer service, adherence to budgets, right first time, on time in full, but also quality and GMP. But in all of those dividends, you can quantify those using basic monetary terms. So before we get into the detail here, let's look at our key belief. It's really important, this belief. Our belief is that in order to have perpetual inspection readiness, you really have to also manage on time in full and cost of quality. Because fundamentally, making sure that you can do something to plan with excellence, with minimal variation, with minimal non-conformance and minimal delay, is a way of utilising your finite resources in the best possible way. Because everybody, you have finite resources, you have finite time, and you have to use those resources to best effect to ensure that you stay in business across those three parameters. And each of them are mutually important to us. So, it's certainly time to use those resources wisely. We talk a lot about ICHQ 9 and how to use a risk-based approach in managing your business. We talk a lot about making war on waste. Very simple message there, that waste is unattractive, it's detrimental to our business, and nobody in an organisation, regardless of the department, would ever be a supporter of waste. So use the war on waste to manage your business. And then ultimately, when you make war on waste and you get that dividend, you can use that dividend then to create breakthrough improvements in other aspects of the business. Yes, of course, you could make the saving and give it to the shareholders, but you could also use some of that dividend in improving other parts of the business that maybe have not had that level of priority or investment in the past. So make sure that you have a strategy and a communication plan that provides a long-term surety of growth using the language of money. Ultimately though, do you have time for any of this? Well, I think you do have time for this, because ultimately you always make time for CAPA, or rework, reprocessing, reinspection and recall. So why not use that time that you would have spent doing those things and make time to prevent issues at source? And that's a key aspect of this capability that I'm talking about this afternoon. Understanding issues at source and utilising your finite resources to fix those problems properly. So our approach is twofold. One is that we have both internal and residential training courses, and also one-to-one or one-to-many consultancy services where we can engage with you and help you understand COPQ and improve your business. But that approach will challenge you to think about your work differently. It's very interactive, very tailor-made, very customised, and it will provide you with a core knowledge of not only how to use the tools, but also how to tailor them to your business, and then how to reproduce the use of those tools in lots and lots of different projects, so that the tools are completely transferable into other challenges and other areas of waste. And ultimately, we want to help you have a route map for making a significant difference or a breakthrough in your business measures, whatever they may be. So myself and two other NSF expert tutors are going to be running a 2-day course in Manchester on the 12th and 13th of November this year. And during that course, we're going to help you to lead your team more effectively by helping you understand the language of money. We're going to help inspire you really to install a COPQ process that is self-sustaining and is easily measured and has effectiveness measures that anyone can understand. We'll go through the tools and techniques. We'll go through some real-life, hard-won case studies that prove that those tools work, and we'll define some next steps that enable you to make the first step most effective in your long-term COPQ program. We'll talk about how COPQ programs work, how to kick it off, how to get those really important quick wins, how you can shout those initial improvements from the rooftop, enable the fire really to get going and catch fire and capture the imagination, and allow more and more people to be involved in the war on waste. You know, nobody likes waste. Everyone wants to eliminate waste where possible, particularly in today's society. So how do you get people involved, engaged, and how do you maintain that momentum? But of course, everything has a lifetime, and we say right from the very start, you have to work out how you're going to reboot a COPQ program, how you're going to refresh it routinely, rebrand it, look for new areas of focus, train new staff, because you want to make sure you've got a continually fresh pair of eyes looking at the issues to hand. But we can help you with that, and we can help you with assessing the right areas for focus for the best return on investment. So, learning the language we all understand, so critical to us. What we really want to do with you is to turn on that conversation outside of your immediate department. So how do you reach out to your production teams, your supply chain teams, your finance teams, your logistics teams, your quality, your lab? How do you make sure that you're all working together for the betterment of your company? And I'd refer you to that really funny section of the film Jerry Maguire back in 1996 with Renee Zellweger and Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr., when they talk so much about help me to help you, help me to help you. And if you can show your colleagues from outside of your department the cash, that you can show them the language is the same regardless of which department you're in, and that reducing variation and error, simplifying processes, working together better is to the betterment of everybody, then you really start talking about the language of money, which is exactly how Joseph Juran described that back in the middle 60s. So we really want to help you with setting that language and that perspective so that you can reach out across departments. So what about COPQ programs? If I picked 6 most common aspects that characterize a successful COPQ program, what would they be? Well, the first one I've already mentioned. It's about the language of money and being able to present to your staff very clearly what improvements you're making and how they're benefiting the company. You start to answer what's in it for me right from the start. The second key aspect is process thinking and being data driven. We'll help you with defining the tools, the flow charts, the measurement tools, so that you can actually be clinical and specific and precise on defining your project as is and how you would like it to be. And you use that data to focus on the critical few areas that are going to give you the biggest improvement, the biggest cost saving, the biggest GMP improvement, or the biggest customer service improvement for the minimal number of changes. And we can help you really focus on what's most important. It's so crucial that you choose the right project to apply the tools so that you get the biggest bang for the buck, as you might call it. We also see in our research that firms who understand the human factors that drive change tend to have the most successful businesses and have the most successful COPQ programs. So we talk a lot about the human factors that drive change, whether those human factors are around logic, i.e. the head, around instinct, the heart, or in risk-taking, which is the guts. And knowing how your organisation uses its head, heart and guts to drive business change, how it uses logic, instinct and risk assessment to drive business change is really critical. I can't stress enough, number 4, understanding risk management, understanding how decisions are made, understanding the values of your company are really important in driving business improvements. But when I talk to most companies that are running these types of organisations, when I talk about the types of organisations that are running these projects, there's often a lot of surprise about how easy the savings can be and how quickly you can accrue savings. Because frankly, opportunity is out there, isn't it? We can all improve, our companies can all improve, and we can improve in ways we've not yet quite measured yet. So opportunities out there, and we should be doing that before our competitors do. And then finally, what we call the double whammy. So ultimately, everyone's happy. Everyone's happy that you improve cost, you improve on time in full, at the same time as improving your product quality and your GMP compliance. And by doing that, you start to drive this process of perpetual inspection readiness. And that is all about making sure you use your resources wisely and you apply resources in the right area across each of those key parameters. So let's have a look now at discussing and creating understanding around cost of quality. So you'll see a family tree of cost of quality on slide number 16. So on the left-hand side of the slide, I show a term called cost of poor quality. And cost of poor quality is made up of internal failures and the costs associated with them, and external failures and the costs associated with them. So internal failure costs could well be associated with poorly completed batch records, non-right first time GMP records, GMP deviations or non-conformances, out of specification results, corrections, rework, reinspection, repacking, retesting. As opposed to the external failure costs, which can be absolutely huge. These can be associated with recall or regulatory action. Somebody said the other day that a typical consent decree it could easily cost a company $500 million. A recall, typically $300,000 to $400,000. But there's also some hidden external failure costs here as well, and it reminds me of a situation I had once where my company was a contract manufacturing organisation, and the company was asked to renegotiate contracts due to poor service levels. So the customer came back to us and said, look, you're charging us a premium price for non-premium service. So we want you to find a reduction in the annual costs of your service and your products, because we just don't see your product as being premium for the premium price that you're charging us. So be aware that companies will use cost of poor quality as a way of negotiating your contracts in the future and driving down your top line revenue. So be aware of that too. Then on the right hand side of the family tree, the cost of good quality is split into either appraisal costs or prevention costs. And these two can sometimes overlap somewhat, because appraisal costs could be associated with your QC testing, your laboratory equipment, the number of QC technicians and supervisors and managers you have within the QC laboratory team, your supply quality management system, internal audit, the number of people you have available for second person checks. That's at the time the job is done in the workplace, but also second person checks of batch records after the event is completed. Appraisal costs may also involve your team leaders, your QA officers, your quality engineers, your EU GMP qualified persons, and your quality management system. So our course looks at all of these types of costs and how they can be better prevented. So 3 key steps before you launch the program. The very first step is to make sure that there is a common understanding of the terminology that I just went through, and an understanding of the journey ahead. Because sometimes people can feel uncomfortable or threatened or challenged by talking in these terms, and you have to use some empathy and engagement and understanding to show them that actually this is for the betterment of everybody. It's betterment for the business, better for long-term sustainable growth of the business. So making sure people are properly aware of the journey ahead and the terminology is absolutely critical. The second key step is to make sure that any costs are characterised properly, that the analysis is credible, and that all savings are auditable, measurable, believable, and that they're properly benchmarked against similar companies. And then the third item around prioritising, I think I've probably already mentioned. It's about selecting the best areas for the programme, the critical few, the key areas that provide you with the biggest opportunity for improvement. And when you've made that improvement, you've succeeded, make sure you sing it from the rooftops and help that catch fire. So what about some strategic considerations for a program of this type? Well, I'd show this really in terms of 4 items. The first one is that within your organisation there needs to be a call to action. A basic understanding that data is showing us that we can save money, improve customer service, improve non-right first time, improve quality and GMP by proper data analysis. And of course, within the industry, we're often criticised that we're fantastic at data collection, not so good at analysing that data and making decisions from it. So establishing a data collection and analysis process that is believable and credible is really important, very strategic. And then ultimately, to have a plan, not just a list of tasks that are going to address this particular need, but also a communication plan that makes sure that people are aware of what's happening, how it's being done, and what benefits are coming from it. So some other essential messages. In order for you to start well, and obviously if you start badly, it's only going to get worse, but to start well, it's important to get a good understanding of the current environment that you're working in your company. Is it a fast-growing company? Is it a company in stasis? Do you have a lot of new products being introduced? Are you building new facilities? Are you looking to downsize that facility? Are you looking to compete internally or externally? What are the outside influences? So understanding your current operating environment gives you the best possible chance to start a COPQ program in the right area. Then you can create a compelling vision and a call to action. And you can then work with the leadership team across the various departments and have a plan that is credible and has verifiable outcomes. It's also pretty important, I would say, to manage your stakeholders. And actually, I think you know that your COPQ program is working well when almost anybody in your organisation can actually explain it. So if I spoke to any of the operators, technicians on the line, people in the offices, what's happening in your COPQ program, they should be able to describe roughly what's happening strategically and also what's happening in their workplace and how it's benefiting them and their jobs and their roles and the business performance of their employer. Because anybody should be able to explain when it is around the language of money. We've talked a little bit about focusing on the critical few, those critical few activities that will give you the biggest return on investment when addressed. And we've talked about selecting the right activities and metrics based upon impact, process knowledge, data collection, and costing capability. So does this actually work? Well, I think it's kind of shocking that an average company cost of poor quality makes up around 1/4 to 40% of their overall sales, which is an incredible number. And actually, if somebody asks you, your CEO asks you in your company to increase sales by 25%, I think you'd probably look quite blankly and you'd say, well, how can I influence that? How can I improve the sales revenue of my company when I'm in an operational role, manufacturing, testing, or providing quality assurance oversight? You probably wouldn't be able to increase sales by that amount. But certainly, you could increase the profit to the company by reducing the cost of bottom line. So it's actually absolutely within our gift to seek out and minimize cost to the same degree of increasing sales. So if you think the best companies can achieve 1% of their overall sales as cost of poor quality, there's definitely opportunity there for firms to improve their margin by reducing variation, non-conformance, issues that come from complexity or non-compliance, or just bad, poorly effective processes. And as you can see there, if you just looked at one Fortune 500 communications company, their savings in just reducing COPQ by 3% led to $100 million savings for them. So what about specifically in pharma? Well, I worked with a company almost 10 years ago now, where we were charged with reducing the overall quality costs in order to be able to compete in the CMO environment. And by utilizing a COPQ program, we reduced the quality cost by 43% in 2 years. That enabled us to improve our customer base 20-fold. Our customers were saying, we love your service, we love your delivery, we love your products, they're of great quality, but they're just too expensive. And for that reason, we can't place orders with you. And it meant that our customer base was very narrow. By improving the cost of poor quality, reducing variation, we were able to win more customers and improve that customer base. And we did that at the same time as reducing headcount, and also during the same period, we had an FDA pre-approval inspection with no FDA 483 GMP non-conformances identified. So we're immensely proud of that, and proved that you could be successful across each of the parameters. We've also worked with another multinational pharmaceutical company that really needed to reduce the number of recurring GMP deviations, and within 18 months they reduced the number of recurring GMP deviations by a quarter and reduced rework by 15% in just over 18 months, with some fantastic savings on the back of that, not least reducing the number of GMP deviations in their company. So what about some spin-offs? Well, it's certainly true that in COPQ, when we're all talking about money and finance and revenue and long-term health of the company, a major spin-off is the fact that your staff will want to get involved. There will be lots of involvement from staff, lots of ideas, lots of interest, lots of perspectives, and because this is so easy to communicate, employee engagement tends to increase rapidly in a successful COPQ program. We also see improvements in customer service because, of course, every delay that you've averted is reducing the risk of a stock out, and stock outs are expensive, they're embarrassing, and very undesirable. We also see reductions in inventory, and if you speak to a finance director, often they'll talk about inventory as being a hidden waste, a drag to the business, which really should be eliminated. And stock turnovers coming from reduced inventory is often a spin-off of a COPQ program. This next one, number 4, I think is particularly important for me as a quality professional, in that, of course, all of your non-right first times, all of your non-conformances, your OOSs, your GMP deviations, all of the things that didn't go according to plan are likely to have to be explained at a GMP inspection. And nobody enjoys that, do they? Nobody likes to share the dirty washing with clients and regulators, going through reams and reams of GMP deviations, some recurring, that just show that we don't understand our business. So if you can reduce variation, reduce non-conformance, that must reduce the heartburn during regulatory inspections by reducing the number of most feared questions. And that's That's important. That's important to me too. Number 5 is around risk-based decision making, because ultimately this is a data-driven program, and risk is best understood and measured and decided on from data. So it really helps your risk-based decision making across your team when there is an understanding of the data and the cost of poor quality. And fundamentally, as a company, any company, whatever business we're in, really ought to be driven by a passion for perpetual inspection readiness, a passion for reducing costs, and a passion for providing your services or products on time in full. And that's a very good belief and mantra for your company. So what next? Well, we have our course in Manchester, 12th to the 13th of November. I'd love you to come along and meet us and see these tools and techniques and case studies in action. I've given you some information there on the webinar on how to get in touch. Of course, you can book online, you can email me, or you can give me a call. It's always nice to talk to people, always nice to discuss your key requirements in person. So although we love the internet, we also love to talk. So please just give us a call. Or the alternative, if you can't make the course in Manchester, is to allow us to bring that course to you. We can bring that course to you internally. We can bring it to your workplace. We can talk about things perhaps that are confidential to you and your company. And we can perhaps reach out to more subject matter experts, more senior managers, more operational managers than we could if it was a residential course. So we're really excited about bringing this capability to your organisation as well. So please be aware of the residential course and also our capability to bring that to you internally. So what else? Well, we do this a lot. We do this kind of mentoring of senior managers a lot, whether they're operational, engineering, facilities-based, lab-based, quality-based. Our mentoring and our approach to mentoring is where we really excel. That mentoring can extend to specialist training, and interestingly enough, our specialist training fits really well with Olivier and Singer's COPQ assumptions. And those assumptions are that each problem has a root cause or a set of root causes. In fact, as you know, of course, if you work with us, we know that there is rarely a proven single root cause. There's more often multiple root causes that all contributed to the issue. But we know that each defect and variation is preventable, and that prevention always costs less than correction. That's a given. So we actually have a variety of spin-off courses which improve your skills in root cause analysis, in identifying defects and risks, in reducing variation, and actually running your business on an agenda of prevention rather than an agenda of correction, which of course in the mid-term, long-term, and indeed the short-term is going to be far, far more economic to your company. And of course, this year and into next year, we're running a number of these programs with a variety of companies, many of which I guess are almost certainly well known to you or your competitors. So the next slide, we're on slide 26 now. I wanted to show you some relationships really between the variety of offerings that we have. So if you think of this webinar and our training course, our internal capability and our mentoring, our project management of COPQ programs as the central benzene ring to this structure. If you look to the right hand side, you'll see that we have a number of workshops that we offer to companies to support them in this type of program. Moving around clockwise, we have courses that look into the GMP expectations, the best practice in qualification and validation, in quality by design, the life cycle approach to qualification and validation, because we know we're really passionate about qualification and validation being at the heart of reducing variation at source. So being sure that you have the right designs, the right controls, the right monitors and the right validation gives you the best possible chance of averting ongoing costs and variation. So we major on that in our internal and residential courses on validation. Moving along, we have a very well established course on deviation management, root cause analysis and kappa management. And we major on the various root cause analysis tools and techniques, how to use them in the right scenarios. We run a number of case studies that show which tools are right for the right issue. And interestingly enough, when we did some research on this last year, when we worked with companies who were working with us on attending training courses in this area, and then working with us on online or on-site support in deviation and kappa, we noticed that on average, within the first year, companies saw a reduction in the number of recurring deviations by between 10 and 40%. And that ultimately, each deviation as a median would cost somewhere in the region of €5,000 per deviation. So the costs that are tied up with correct root cause analysis, correct deviation management, defining the right kappa can have a phenomenal effect on your cost of poor quality. Moving around the structure, we also obviously have our pharmaceutical quality system management best practice course, which really summarizes ICHQ 10 and how to use risk-based assessments to assemble a proportionate risk-based quality system that provides you with the level of identification of risk, the level of risk management and the level of oversight, but by keeping costs proportionate and credible and suitable for the type of business you're in. So that course is very good at helping you look at right first time, reducing costs of appraisal, reducing costs of prevention, and utilizing a quality management system that's going to be good for your business, not just good for GMP compliance and regulatory inspections. Your quality system should help drive and facilitate the business, not just be something that's bolted on to your company. The next one around that structure is around risk-based decision making, because we also appreciate that although we are very data-driven in what we do, very structured, it's people that make decisions, and understanding people's motivations, the way they handle data, the bias that they may have, and how they apply various tools and techniques is critical in getting to the right outcomes. So we have a very extensive scenario-based course on risk-based decisions to help them with that. And then finally, human error prevention, which has been an incredible course for us, very, very successful course for us, where we look at simplification of the workplace, simplification of processes, simplification of procedures and log sheets and batch records, so that you get what you need to provide assurance of the product quality attributes, those critical product attributes, but without confusing people, baking in error into processes. We look at user-centered design. We look at poka-yoke as a concept and also in practice. And we look at the causes of human error and how they can be reduced. And obviously, by reducing them, again, you're reducing the cost of poor quality. So, thanks very much for listening, everybody. thank you so much for taking an interest in this subject. I'm going to have a look now to see if we have any questions. If we don't have any questions, then please feel free to contact me by telephone, email or LinkedIn. And you can see on the final slide there, you have my email address too. So hopefully that's been useful to you. I'm going to go quiet for a moment now just while I check to see if we've had any questions. Thank you.